all of the people that you see on screen are corrupt. You can add to that Craig Slater and probably quite a number of others. They all know that the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix in 2021 was fixed. They all served to condition you to believe it and accept it. Brundle and Crofty narrated the fix, and all of the rest of them have helped to cover it up. The only one that can hold their head high is Johnny Herbert, but even he has been muzzled because none of them have ever exposed the truth. This video is going to prove that. Some of you will have seen some of the points I'm going to make before, but I'm going to add much greater detail. Now that people have seen the true safety car rules and how they are supposed to be applied in the context of sport, and they've also seen the video where it compares when Michael Schumacher set a new world record with the moment in time where Lewis Hamilton was on course to set a new world record and Skysports never mentioned it once, you will now have a greater understanding of what is truly going on in those last 5 laps, which I'm going to detail now. So here goes. The last 5 laps. Latifi has crashed 7 seconds ago and the Sky Sports commentators are just about to call it out. 60 lives or somewhere in that region. Count them.
Come the first race. Oh no! Nicholas Latifi has crashed, and I think that is at turn 14 where we saw Kimi Räikkönen crash in practice. It is at turn 14, and yes, that will be a safety car because marshals are going to need to recover that Williams and to work on it, and this now completely changes the context of this race.
Okay, I've just stopped it because if I play too long a footage, they take this down, so I need to occasionally do that, but bear with me.
If they can clear the Williams in time and we can have a couple of laps racing to the checkered flag.
There's bound to be a couple, and of course that's where...
There we go, first lie, there's bound to be a couple. Lewis Hamilton has got just over 5 laps remaining. It takes, on average, 5.5 laps before racing can resume in such an incident where cars have been lapped. So there's never going to be bound to be a couple, okay? But if it's a quick clear-up operation, you might, if you're lucky, get one. And that's having done the correct safety car procedure. Straight away, Brundle is saying there's bound to be a couple. He's now going to say, and Max's fresher tyres are going to fire up quicker. Max Verstappen has not yet pitted. Max Verstappen is still on his 16-lap-old hard tyres.
Where Max Verstappen's much fresher tyres will fire up and give him the confidence on any kind of restart.
16-lap-old hard tyres aren't going to fire up particularly quickly.
Depends how there will be. I'm pretty sure on lap 52, obviously because.
Okay, Lewis Hamilton is on 54. So although that could be written off as just a mistake, it's not the only time during this period of time where we are led to believe there is longer left in this race than what actually is. So Lewis Hamilton's now on lap 54.
Of the slow pace with 5 to go, that they'll probably have a lap or two as long as they get it. If they get a vehicle.
Again, he reinforces that he thinks there's going to be a lap or two of racing, and the statistics do not back that up at all.
On there and get that out of the way.
And coming into the pits, Max Verstappen. Hamilton stays out. Verstappen coming into the pits, and I would imagine there's a set of soft tyres waiting for him to go onto that Red Bull car. Yes, it is.
What you will now hear is a narrative. This is not live. This conversation does not take place at the location where Lewis Hamilton is right now. It has been pre-recorded, and the F1 TV editing team has chosen to play this message now.
Negative.
Right, so if there is a restart, Verstappen now has fresh soft tyres. Lewis has heavily used hard compound tyres. They will let any lap runners through on the same.
Pay attention to the wording. They will let any lap runners through. Okay, that's a rather strange wording to use, and I don't believe it's ever been used before. That is the word that has been argued about in terms of the legal interpretation of the term any. Does any mean all, or does it not mean all? And that is one of these little things that they've tried to argue as a legal interpretation which allows them to interpret the rule that way. Why did he not say they will let the lapped runners through? They will let all of the lap runners through, which is the more natural thing to say. Instead, Brundle chooses to say they will let any lapped runners through. Rather strange.
Safety car restart, and he will presumably end up, well, they had nothing to lose. Once again...
Okay, he stresses Red Bull had nothing to lose. This will not be the first time you hear that.
Red Bull had nothing to lose there.
They have nothing to lose. Hamilton is a long way clear as Perez also pits, as we can see, and there's quite a few coming into the pits. Hamilton's a long way clear on the track, but I rather get the feeling by the time he comes around to the main straight, he's not going to be able to pit and stay ahead of Max Verstappen. That chance wasn't there or has gone by for Mercedes.
Verstappen tucked up behind Sebastian Vettel in the Aston Martin there.
But he won't be on the restart.
Okay, and again, we are now on lap 54, quite a way around it, and Crofty is confident that there's going to be a restart because Verstappen won't be on the restart, and there's no indication of whether that's possible yet.
Wow.
So look, we're on lap 54.
Again, that interjection from Lewis has been selected by F1 TV and interjected there.
4 of 58 here. They've got to clear that debris away, and the fire extinguishers have obviously gone off because the brakes, I'm sure, were getting very, very hot. But they've also got to let the lapped cars unlap themselves. Just at the back of my mind, I wonder if we're going to get any racing laps in this race. Wait and see. This is what happened to Nicholas Latifi. He was scrapping away with Mick Schumacher.
Just a pause for not too long of the footage.
That's not the corner he crashed on, is it?
That was earlier on, I think, in the skirmish with Schumacher. They barged wheels, went off the track, would have picked up a bit of dust and debris on his tyres, and then the rear just lets go.
Probably dirty tyres from being offline there. Will we get any more racing laps or not? What jeopardy at the end of this Grand Prix, the end of this World Championship. Will there be any more racing laps? If there are, then Verstappen has got the tyres to really do something with them. Will they let the lap runners through?
He's asking the question. There is no possible way you're allowed to restart racing with lapped cars in situ. My safety car video proves that. Proves that in relation to the sporting context that the rules have to be applied within. So Brundle is asking that question as if it's a possibility. Not even possible.
Well, they always do let the lap runners through, and in between Hamilton.
Because you have to. But now listen to the 5 that are listed, not the 8. And this is the first of 3 times that just the 5 cars are listed.
And Verstappen, Norris, Alonso, Ocon, Leclerc and Vettel.
Yes, but if they do that, it extends the safety car period.
That's a lie as well. The safety car period lasts as long as it takes. It lasts as long as it takes to clear up the debris, clear up the track, clear the stricken car off the track, and make sure the barriers are safe. And then the all clear can be given to unlap the cars, give them that lap to catch the back, and then we can go racing again. That is the length of the safety car procedure. The only thing that makes that longer is if those released cars have not caught the back of the safety car train. The race director can then prolong it by making the safety car perform an additional lap to give those released cars the fair sporting chance in order to catch the back of the pack. That's the only way it's prolonged. It's not prolonged by releasing them.
But that's what they always do, take the lap runners out of the way so they're not interfering in play.
Not the reason at all. Nothing to do with lap runners interfering in play. It is to give them the same sporting chance as every other competitor in the race, allowing each of them to catch the competitor in front that they're allowed to challenge. Only Max got that chance, really. He got the chance of being able to be right behind Lewis Hamilton. Third place didn't get the chance of being right behind second. Seventh place didn't get the chance of being right behind sixth. 12th place didn't get the chance of being right behind 11th.
Situation is, Verstappen has pitted. He had a free pit stop. We would have lost track position to him. 4 laps remaining when you cross the line. So this...
Okay, once again, F1 TV chosen to play this recorded message at this moment in time. This took place before Lewis crossed the start-finish line. So now we are hearing, as viewers, there's 4 laps to go when he crosses the line. There's actually 3 2/3, 3 3/4, because that's where Hamilton is right now. But they're playing it now to give us the impression there is still a substantial amount of time left, and there is less time than what they're convincing you to believe there is.
Field has to bunch, and then they have to send lap cars through, so it may not restart.
Is he right behind me?
He will be, once they've sorted out all the order. This is going to take a while to sort out.
It might be one.
With new tyres.
Copy, Lewis. We would have lost track position if we had pitted.
And that was the big key here. Mercedes, for the second time, keeping Lewis Hamilton out, whilst Max Verstappen pitted. Red Bull had nothing to lose.
There we hear it again. Red Bull had nothing to lose.
Hamilton potentially losing track position, and in this case, if...
Watch how he frames this.
We don't go racing again because you can't overtake under the safety car, he would have lost the World Championship.
So he's saying that had Hamilton have pitted and lost track position, he would have lost the World Championship if we don't go racing again. Why didn't he say, quite simply, if we don't go racing again, Lewis Hamilton is on course to become an 8-time world champion? It is that simple. Instead, he wants to twist it inside out and say, well, had he have pitted, which he didn't, and had he have then lost track position, which he didn't, and then had we have not been able to go racing again, which we shouldn't, he would have then lost the world championship. Rather strange way of articulating that.
Is there a vehicle pulling the Williams out of the way or not yet?
Can't see it at the moment. Ted.
These two men are responsible for commentating on this event to a huge audience. You've got a commentary booth. You've got several screens of footage available to you. You should be able to demand that you are provided with the camera that is showing what is going on at turn 14 so that you can relay that to the watching world. So claiming that you don't know what is going on at turn 14 is ridiculous. It is either a lie or it is gross negligence, gross incompetence of not being able to request the actual camera angle of what is going on, because that is all the only important thing that is going on right now. And you need to know that so that you can convey to the world what is going on and what is likely to happen. And you're claiming you don't know.
Down to you.
Yeah, have a load of other people pitting. Yuki Tsunoda, Pierre Gasly, Daniel Ricciardo. We've had Lance Stroll as well into the pits. I'll give you those orders as they shake out. But yeah, it was just bad luck. I mean, you saw the Mercedes mechanics just hanging around outside the pits looking at whether they had the order to come in. But Hamilton was so close to the pit entrance that it does seem that the engineer's right there. Whatever they would have done, they would have lost track position.
The safety car's not going full gas down the straight.
Copy, Lewis, understood.
His tyres are cooling. He needs more pace, more heat into those tyres.
This is awful for Lewis then with those hard compound, heavily used tyres. So.
Right, look at what they've done there. Lewis is complaining that the safety car isn't going full gas. What Lewis is getting at is that he feels the safety car is purposefully going slower than it normally would to ensure that the time elapses in the clear-up operation still allows for a final racing lap. So Lewis is concerned, hang on, this safety car is going slow on purpose just to make sure we get this lap in, where if he was being authentic and if he was doing what they normally do, then these laps would go by a lot quicker. But rather than deal with that, Brundle puts it onto the tyres. Oh yeah, this is awful for Lewis with those hard compound old used tyres. It's going to be so difficult for him. That's not even a consideration at this point in time. In order to go racing again, the lapped cars need to be released, and then you've got that full lap with which to do all your warming up of those tyres to get them up to temperature for the restart. So at this moment in time, the notion of keeping those tyres really hot is not really that much of an issue. But you're trying to say, oh, this is awful for Lewis, this is terrible, having to lap so slowly. It's not really a problem yet, because when you know that that's going to restart, you can then make sure you are fully prepared in that lap and a half that you've got to make sure they're fully warm.
There's the shunt then that caused the safety. There has to be a safety car there, and but will they let the lap runners through? I don't think.
Second time he asked the question, will they let the lap runners through? That's the second time you've heard it, conditioning you to believe that that's a possibility when it absolutely is not.
It's absolutely mandatory.
It is. Once again, you are validating.
But that's normally on a wet day that they...
That's absolute gaslighting. There is no difference to the rules in wet conditions or dry conditions. It's the same safety car procedure, the same process, the same unlapping procedure for lapped cars, the same notion of having to perform a minimum of one mandatory lap after the lap that they've released on. Wet conditions make no difference to that.
Don't. And if so, how long will they wait?
Asking the question when it's no question. We know it's a minimum of one lap as after the lap that they've been released on. Don't ask a question when we know that the minimum is in the rules.
For those lap cars to get out of the way, if they wait for them to...
It's not about getting them out of the way. How long will they wait to catch the pack? It's not about getting them out of the way. Don't try and spin it like that.
Catch the pack up, which they don't have to do,
no.
Then I don't think we'll get a racing lap. If they let them through, we could get one racing lap.
3 laps to go. Nicholas Latifi is seemingly okay after that contact with the barriers, around about 90 miles an hour. But he would have taken a whack, and it's good to see that he's okay. Sergio Perez coming into the pits again.
This is the bit where Mercedes become world champions. As soon as Red Bull take a car out of the race, there is no way that Red Bull can overhaul a 28-point deficit in the Constructors' Championship. Listen to what the commentators say.
So Max,
I think they're retiring the car here. Perez into the pits for the 4th time. I didn't understand why, but I think they are retiring the car, and yes, they're not going to be working on it, and that is the end of Sergio Perez's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
Checo, we need to retire the car. We need to retire the car. Box.
And for the
really? Yeah, box.
And lap.
So that is the surprise in Perez's voice. So clearly he doesn't think there's an issue with the car at that moment in time. Okay, we're going to get the announcement. Lapped cars are not going to be allowed to be let through. The reason that lapped cars are not going to be allowed through is because there are men still on track. Look at the way Skysports F1 spin it.
Lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake.
It's not mandatory. And
yes, it is.
the regulations, which leaves Verstappen with a lot of work to do then.
So straight away, you've introduced people to the fact that, oh, it's not mandatory, and that leaves him having to pass 5 cars before he even gets the chance to challenge Hamilton. That's not even a possibility. That's a complete lie, because you cannot restart racing like this. And the reason is solely that the track is not safe. Until that track is clear, until the men are clear of working on the track and the barriers are declared safe, you're not allowed to release the cars. And they are claiming that there's a different reason for that. They've not in any way told you that that is why the lapped cars aren't being released.
So Mercedes will be Constructors' champions at the end of this race, as it stands at the moment, assuming that Hamilton and Bottas finish this race.
Absolute lie. Hamilton and Bottas can both crash out at this stage. Mercedes are Constructors' champions, because even if Verstappen then wins with the fastest lap and the two Mercs go out, Mercedes are still Constructors' champions by 2 points.
Drivers' Championship, though, is very much up for grabs.
Well, it's not, because at this stage it's not possible to release those lap cars, and it's not possible to go racing because there are men still on the track. But you're conditioning people to think that the driver's title is still up for grabs, and unless it is possible to release those lapped cars on this lap, then it's going to be a safety car finish. That's a fact.
Lapped cars won't be allowed to overtake, which means that there are plenty of cars in between Hamilton and Verstappen for Verstappen to fight his way through.
It does not mean that whatsoever. Not at all.
Norris, Alonso, and also Ocon and Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel.
None of which have...
There you go. So once again, those 5 drivers, that's the second time just those 5 cars are mentioned as being the lapped cars. Ricciardo, Stroll and Mick Schumacher are not mentioned either time, and they won't be mentioned the third time either. And now Brundle is about to say, once again validating by normalising it and saying, well, yes, as lapped cars, they will get blue flagged. This is not even a viable scenario. It is in no way valid, but Brundle is making it seem normal.
A position, of course, they're obliged to get out of the way, but Lewis will be long down the road.
That I suppose is the compromise that race control have made here.
The commentators of any sport will never suggest that the referee of that sport, oh, I'm guessing this is the compromise that the referee is making. The referee has clear rules that he has to apply. That's his job. He's not there to bend the rules, make compromises to accommodate a certain outcome. That is called race manipulation. That is called manipulation of sport. That is manipulating the outcome of an event by not following the rules. And Crofty has normalised that by suggesting, well, I suppose that's the compromise he's making. How on earth, if you are commentating on something live, do you jump to that conclusion if you do not know exactly what is going to take place? What you would do if you are commentating on it live, you would be a bit confused. You would say, well, what's he doing now? You would say, the reality of the situation, if we can't let the lapped cars through, we're not going to be able to go racing again. So Lewis Hamilton is going to become an 8-time world champion. Instead, Crofty says, well, I suppose that's a compromise that the referee's making.
By giving the best possible chance for racing to the finish rather than finishing behind the safety car, they've decided...
Look at them giving the reason that all the Max Verstappen fans want. Oh, we wanted to see a racing finish to this. Well, you were seeing a racing finish, and Lewis Hamilton was winning that race by 12 seconds. And Max was nowhere near him. And Lewis was actually going away from Max. And there were 5 cars that Max would have had to get through, which would actually have slowed Max down. So there was your end to the race. That was what was going to happen. But you wanted to see a racing finish. But you had to break the rules to see a racing finish. And these guys are suggesting it's okay to break the rules to see that racing finish. And they're conditioning you that it's possible to break the rules to see that racing finish. Wake up and see exactly what they're doing. They are conditioning you to believe that this is all okay. This is all okay because we all want to see this racing finish. No, we're watching sport. You apply the rules to the sport and then see who wins the event in accordance with the rules of the sport.
The lap cars will stay where they are.
And again, that's not why he's kept the lap cars from overtaking. He's kept them from overtaking because there are men on track. And when you see this from the normal view, you will see that. In fact, I'm going to switch to that. I'm going to switch to global view temporarily, and we'll see.
Of course, typical decision.
So this is the part where F1 TV choose this message that took place going down the top straight, and they are making out that Red Bull feel hard done by the fact that the lapped runners are not being let through, and race control is purposefully thwarting Red Bull. But this is what happens.
It's classic.
I'm not surprised. Well, I'll try and look at this objectively.
You'll look at it objectively. Now, I need to give somebody else credit for this, which I will in a future video. He's claiming he's being objective, and all he does is provide validation for the reasons that it would be good for Red Bull. That's not objective.
We should get one lap of racing here. If we allowed the lap cars to overtake, we'd have no laps of racing to the checkered.
Okay, so no laps of racing. Okay, so is that objective? Is that a statement of fact?
Flag. So what do Red Bull want? And Max Verstappen.
This is the reason why the lapped cars were not being let through, because there are men on track. That is the reason, not because anybody's trying to thwart Red Bull. It's because you can't, because there's still men on the track. Continue listening to Crofty.
And Giampiero Lambiase as race engineer, do they want the chance, or do they want to finish behind the safety car with no overtaking?
I'll try and be objective. What do Red Bull want? Is that being objective? I'll try being objective. If now we're not going to get any racing because the safety car procedures what they are, and you just can't do it. Or what do Red Bull want? Do they want some racing? That's your version of being objective, is it, Crofty?
Because I think that is the decision that has come from race control.
I've just showed you the decision from race control. He's not chosen to leave them in situ to restart racing. He said they can't be allowed to be released because there are men on track. And now we're just about to go on to lap 57, which is the earliest possible point which these lapped cars can be released. So therefore lap 58 is the mandatory safety car lap. There is no overtaking before they cross the start finish line at the end of lap 58. Lewis Hamilton is the world champion, the record-breaking 8-time world champion, and that happens at this point providing Lewis Hamilton stays on track, and that's what they need to mention.
And personally, this is the decision that gives them the best chance if they want it.
Yeah.
Continuing to be objective, aren't you? And personally, this is the decision that gives Red Bull the best chance. Very objective there, Crofty. Really appreciate that.
I mean, the regulation, as I said, they may allow.
Third time. Everything comes in threes. The third time, Brundle is claiming that the regulations state that they don't have to release the lapped cars. It's an optional thing. Not at all. If you don't release them, you can't go racing. You don't release them because it's not safe to release them. And if it's not safe to release them, it's not safe to go racing again. And once you do release them, you have to carry out the mandatory procedures before you go racing again.
The lap cars through. It's not mandatory, to point it out, but as you point out, Crofty, there'd be no racing laps if they let the lap cars through, because I think the safety car will come in at the end of this lap, and there will be one racing lap.
So he thinks the safety car will come in at the end of this lap, and there'll be one racing lap. So he's thinking that there's going to be a racing lap with 5 cars in the way. That is not possible. We've never seen it ever happen before. The rules do not permit it. But Brundle is suggesting that that is what we're going to see. That's his prediction. We're now on lap 57. Brundle predicts that here.
They'll all get blue flags, I would imagine.
And Crofty validates it with the notion of going, well, yeah, as lap runners, they'll get the blue flags. So they make you believe, yeah, this is normal, and this is how they'll deal with it. Not possible.
Christian and Michael.
Yes, go ahead, Christian.
Yeah, why aren't we getting these lap cars out of the way?
Just give me, because Christian, just give me a second.
So once again, this is a pre-recorded message. This is not live. This is one that F1 TV have recorded and are now choosing to play at this moment in time. This is them setting that narrative up. They are purposefully showing the world this message, which then leads to Massey getting them cars out the way.
Okay, my big one is to get this incident clear.
You only need one racing lap.
See, Christian said that without moving his lips.
Well, I assume Christian's talking about then, you know, getting the lap cars out of the way, not clearing the incidents away.
Yeah.
Not clearing the incident away. You cannot release the lapped cars until that track is safe. The whole purpose of the safety car procedure is to bunch them cars to allow a window of time whilst them cars are making it around the rest of the track for the marshals to be on track clearing the track. If you release them cars early whilst men are still on track, all of a sudden there are Formula 1 cars travelling at 120 mile an hour around that corner coming upon a marshal that's on track. That is why you have to wait for the all clear before any cars are released. That is the way the system works. And they are just neglecting that process altogether and trying to make you believe that's not how it works and that's not the purpose of it.
I mean, all of the cars in front of Max will get blue flags and are duty bound.
Again, that's pretty much the third time they've suggested the notion of these 5 lapped cars, they'll all have to move out the way, but, you know, that's still a long way back, isn't it? That still doesn't really give Max the chance, does it?
To get out of the way, but they're all in a reasonable fight themselves, aren't they?
Well, you've said they're all in a reasonable fight themselves, but you've not in any way presented to anybody. This guy in the orange car, Lando Norris, that was less than 12 seconds behind Gasly, that Gasly's now right at the end of this stream of cars. So Norris is effectively almost a lap behind him. Who's he in a fight with? Because he can't challenge for the position in front. Norris can't challenge Gasly. So who are you trying to convince is in a fight with who?
Here we go. Normally, you know, you'd see the race leader backing up the pack a little bit when the safety car goes. I would imagine on this.
Again, why do you think the safety car is coming in this lap? You are predicting it's coming in. We've not had the notion that it is coming in yet. And you're telling us we think that the leader should be backing these up now. Or this is what we'd normally see. Hang on a minute. You've not received notification that the safety car is coming in. Have you?
Occasion, if we do get a lap, Martin, Hamilton will want to be disappearing off into the distance as fast as he can.
Yeah, I don't see any way Verstappen can do anything with that. But indeed, is the safety car coming in this lap? We think it should do, could do.
Second time this lap. So lap 57. Is it coming in this lap? We think it should do, could do. The lapped cars haven't been released yet. And it's got to do another mandatory lap. But you are thinking it should do, could do. This is the second time you've made that prediction this lap.
Is there any more debris to clear up?
That there is just a red herring, a diversion.
We're halfway round already.
Race control are now saying lapped cars to overtake the safety car. So Norris and Alonso and Ocon and Leclerc and Vettel.
The 5 cars. Already mentioned twice. And they're them same 5 cars again. All listed. And Ricciardo, Stroll and Schumacher. You don't hear them 3 names for the 3rd time. And here we go with Brundle.
And it's ending. And it's ending. Wow.
Mike.
You seem surprised, Martin. And it's ending. And it's ending. Wow. You've predicted this twice already. But now you seem surprised that it's actually happening. I'm surprised that you're surprised. And actually all of us are surprised because it shouldn't be happening. but you're just, oh, wow, we should be excited by this.
So, there's confusion, but the safety car is coming in.
Confusion, Crofty, confusion. Well, you've been telling us that this was what was going to happen. So what's confusing about it? You've been telling us that this is what was going to happen. That the safety car was going to come in at the end of this lap. So now you're saying, well, it's confusing, isn't it? It's not.
At the end of this lap, so those back markers allowed to overtake the safety car.
To call them back markers when they are in positions 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 is not really a fair reflection of how them competitors were faring in that race. I would suggest the back markers are positions 12, 13 and 14, which is Ricciardo, Stroll and Schumacher, who you haven't mentioned. And 12 and 13 are actually holding back third place from even being able to challenge second place, which gives Verstappen a free run at Hamilton. So when he sends Hamilton out at that corner, there's nobody right up behind them that can actually nip through on the inside of the corner, is there? You can leave somebody out and you can let somebody do a late lunge overtake without any fear whatsoever that somebody's going to nip up the inside.
And that has now left Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen.
Michael, this isn't right.
And again, they choose to interject this now. It's almost like they're sticking two fingers up at Toto Wolff at that stage.
It has left Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen side by side. Hamilton will be ahead. Verstappen...
Okay, we know the safety car procedure. We know that this isn't allowed, and actually he's going to nose ahead of him.
Is absolutely desperate to get on with this.
Nothing said. Just absolutely desperate to get on with this.
On that soft compound tyre, we're going to have one lap of racing to decide the championship in 2020.
That's a rehearsed line, isn't it? Wow, one lap of racing to decide the championship in 2021. Wow.
Hamilton has the advantage.
Hamilton has the advantage. Hamilton has the advantage. You've been telling us for 5 laps how much of an advantage those fresh soft compound tyres are. Now you're telling us that Hamilton's got the advantage. He's a sitting duck. So much so that Bottas, currently in 4th, has got Mick Schumacher in 14th behind him, and Tsunoda and Gasly behind Schumacher. Tsunoda and Gasly both get past Schumacher and both overtake Bottas, because them two AlphaTauris are on the soft compound tyres, and they got past a Mercedes on hard compound tyres that weren't as old as Lewis's, but both AlphaTauris, and AlphaTauris aren't as quick as Red Bulls, and both of them got past a Mercedes. That's how much that performance differential is of those tyres. They knew exactly what was going to happen here. They knew exactly what was going to happen, and they set it up for Verstappen to do it.
Verstappen has the faster, fresher tyres, and we have got 3.2 miles of racing action all the way to the checkered flag.
I'm going to... in fact, no, I'll keep it on this, and hopefully they won't delete it. We'll see how it goes.
The crowd roar the drivers on to the final lap of this race, and Verstappen sets after Hamilton. Is it going to be a first World Championship for Verstappen? Is it going to be an 8th World Championship for Lewis Hamilton?
So, did they say record-breaking 8? No, they didn't. And from the moment Latifi crashes, how many times have you heard 8-time world champion from Brundle or Crofty? And the answer to that is you haven't. You've only heard it now when they're asking, is it going to be an 8th world championship for Lewis, or is it going to be a first for Max? And what that is doing, that is making out Max to be this amazing driver that he's overcoming somebody that otherwise could have been an 8th. When Lewis is a sitting duck now, because that's what you've done to him. That's the first time you've mentioned about 8th time world champion when you know Max is going to overcome him and pass him. You've not once stated the truth, the facts that the race isn't going to restart and actually Lewis is on course to become an 8-time world champion. A moment in history, a record-breaking moment.
Where can Verstappen try and get past Hamilton? First overtaking zone is normally down into turn 5. Is Verstappen?
It's all about Verstappen, isn't it? Can Lewis hold him off? Can the 7-time world champion with all his experience and his 103 race wins, is he able to hold off this competitor behind him? No, we don't talk about it like that, do we?
Far enough back, he's going to make the lunge down the inside. Hamilton sees him coming.
Okay, it doesn't really give a good camera angle, this. But look at it. There's an angle of this where he goes really wide, and you'll see how much he pushes Hamilton out. Had Sainz have been dragging them all up that straight and been right up the back of Verstappen's rear wing, would it be able to nip through on the inside of that bend? We'll never know, because he was held back.
It's a late lunge by Verstappen, who takes the lead of the race. Verstappen.
Well, you look how quick Norris was to the back of him. And Norris was not getting involved, but he was staying with them. And he just kept himself out of the way. If you were challenging for position there, you may well have had a chance. Ultimately, it shouldn't have been restarted anyway. So that's just a nonsense hypothetical. But you've got to realise 2 cars were separated out to race off for a win in this. And that in itself is not allowed in a multi-competitor event. That's the basics. I said that within a couple of days of the event, and I posted it on social media. And I sent it to Skysports. I sent it to pretty much every news outlet in the country and several globally. None of them have ever exposed it. You cannot just separate out 2 competitors in a multi-competitor event and just say, well, let's just race off between you 2 to see who wins this one. It's still a Grand Prix, the same as every other Grand Prix there is in the season. It's not a final between just 2 cars. It's a Grand Prix. There were 20 competitors at the start of this. All of them should have the same sporting chance to win, to contest for the win. You've selected just 2 cars to separate them out and see which one of them 2 cars would win over a 1-lap race-off. That doesn't comply with any of the rules of the sport. That in itself is enough to overturn the result of this race. And the FIA just went, oh no, that's fine. We accept that. And our buddies, the World Motorsport Council, went, oh yes, yeah, that's fine. No, it's not. You're all corrupt.
Now snatches the championship trophy from Lewis Hamilton, who's trying to fight back.
No DRS for 2 laps, so Lewis Hamilton will not get the rear wing open.
Right, I'm going to stop it there because we know what the outcome is. Out of those last 5 laps, watch it back. Watch it back yourself. Out of everything that Crofty and Brundle say, nothing is authentic. Nothing is authentic. They have been paid to narrate it. They've been paid to set it up to be this racing lap. I can pick apart everything that they have said, and it is wrong. Everybody has to start waking up to the fact that this was fixed. It wasn't just a human error by Massey. The TV company, F1 TV, gave you this. They fed this through your TV set for you to see. They fed in at the points they wanted the radio messages that they wanted you to hear to make you believe what you were going to see and make you feel the way you felt. Brundle and Crofty were telling you lies all the way through. Lying about the rules, lying about the possibilities. All the way through those last 5 laps, it was all lies. That's not authentic. They are preparing you for that final last lap that should never have happened. That clearly proves that they were in on what was going to happen. And that was set up for Max Verstappen to do this. That was set up for this final racing lap, come what may. That's not in the rules of the sport. And Sky Sports knew that this was going to happen because they're presenting to condition you to believe it was going to happen and to accept that it was going to happen as if it's just normal. It is ridiculous. And the corruption does not stop there. I've already produced videos about what happened in the Stewards' Appeal. If you've not already seen them, check them out. That is one of the most corrupt things you'll ever see. And none of the media have called it out. And then we've got what the FIA did for 3 months in the aftermath. And again, none of the media have called it out. The whole thing is a systematic fix, and we, as fans of Formula One, need to ensure that everybody knows. And the way you do that is you either share this or you produce content yourself where you make sure you post it, you share it, you produce stuff that explains to people exactly the fact that this was a systematic fix by many parties involved, controlled by Liberty Media. F1 TV is their broadcasting company for broadcasting F1, creating the footage. Sky Sports are the contracted pundits and commentators. Then you've got the FIA, and this is the supposed governing body, and really they're having their strings pulled. They're puppets. Liberty tell them the outcome they want, and they manipulate the rules to achieve those outcomes. And they've got control of the media so that nobody in the media has ever truly exposed any of this way. And I have contacted so many of the media companies in the UK, and none of them have exposed anything. They know the information. I've provided them with it, and none of them are doing it. Because the media is pretty much owned in the UK by 4 very, very wealthy men. And they are not calling each other out because they've all got similar interests. So we have to do this on social media. We have to inform every F1 fan who is a user of social media exactly what happens. And what we have to do as well, we have to use this as an example of people that may not even be that interested in Formula One, but exposed to them too, that this is the level of corruption, because then they will see it in the other facets of life where it's going on too. So do your bit. Be part of standing with Lewis Hamilton by doing something, and that is either share it, keep posting about it, keep calling it out, keep calling the whole enterprise of F1 out for the corrupt enterprise that it is, and make sure, or produce the content yourself, okay? Make sure we do not let this drop. We do not let this drop, and we find a mainstream broadcaster that eventually will have to call this out, because we will never let it drop.